Microdosing is when you derive the maximum benefit from taking the minimum effective dose. This is how you minimize unwanted effects. People microdose daily to feel and perform better. Some use it to enhance their creativity, to sleep better, to help with pain, to have more focus in the moment, to recover from workouts quicker, and to manage anxiety. Today's podcast is sponsored by Microdose Gummies and Lumi Labs. Microdose Gummies deliver perfect, entry-level doses of THC that help you feel just the right amount of good. I used some of the Microdose Gummies last weekend, and I enjoyed it a lot. I generally like to be productive, but I was more interested in de-stressing, so I floated in the pool. It was a relaxing and amazing experience. I highly recommend it. The gummies are organic, infused with real fruit, vegan-friendly, gluten-free, and they are enjoyable. I'm really pleased with this company and their products. 10 out of 10. Microdose is available nationwide. To learn more about microdosing THC, go to microdose.com and use the code BEYOND to get free shipping and 30% off your first order. Links can be found in the show description, but again, that's microdose.com, code BEYOND.
This podcast contains adult themes and graphic violence. Listener discretion is advised.
A commercial-free version of this podcast is available on Patreon for $1 per month. Patreon.com/Beyond Contempt Podcast. I'm Renee, and this is Beyond Contempt True Crime. You're listening to episode 63, The Guy Family. Joel and Lisa Guy were in the twilight of their lives. 61-year-old Joel Guy Sr. had finished his career out as a pipeline engineering designer. 55-year-old Lisa was still working at her job as an accounts payable administrator, but was looking forward to retiring shortly. They put their home on Golden View Lane in Knoxville, Tennessee on the market and listed it for $237,500. There were big changes planned. Joel Sr.'s mother had passed away, and they were moving into her home in the Rogersville area, which was about an hour and 15 minutes northeast of Knoxville. Joel Sr. was looking forward to returning to the home where he grew up. The Guy family planned on moving into their new digs by Christmas 2016, and they invited all their adult children for the holidays. Joel Sr. and Lisa had been married for 31 years, but Joel had 3 daughters from a previous marriage. Together, Lisa and Joel Sr. had one son, who they named Joel Jr. On Thursday, November 24th, 2016, the Guy family had a nice Thanksgiving gathering in their Knoxville home, one last time before they moved. The 3 daughters headed home after the festivities that Thursday night, since they all lived in Tennessee. Joel Jr. was leaving the next day. He had a longer trip ahead of him since he lived in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. On Monday, 28th November 2016, Lisa Guy's boss was extremely concerned when she didn't show up for work. She called Lisa's home several times, and when Lisa didn't pick up, she called the sheriff's office to request a welfare check. An officer went to the Guy residence and saw nothing out of the ordinary, so he left. This outcome did not sit well with Lisa's employer. Lisa had a meeting scheduled that day, which she would have never missed. So, her boss called the Major Crimes Unit. When a Knox County officer arrived at the Guy's 2-story home on Golden View Lane, it was quiet. There was a for sale sign in the front yard, but there was no real estate lockbox on the handle of the front door. When the officer went to check the back door, the doorknob was removed, and when they peered through the hole, there was a strange chemical smell seeping out, along with heat. A clicker was grabbed from a parked car in the driveway, and investigators entered the house from the garage. Officers had a physical reaction when they entered the house. It was like nothing they ever smelled before. Not only that, but one officer reported feeling a tingling sensation on his forehead from the chemicals as he entered the residence. The thermostat was set to 90 degrees Fahrenheit. On a table, there were 2 wallets and a sledgehammer. On another table rested a long gun. In the front area of the house, all kinds of groceries were strewn over the floor. Ice cream, bacon, sausage. There were feces in the living room. In the kitchen, there was a large stock pot that was boiling. Several bottles of bleach had been placed on the kitchen table and floor. Workout equipment had been overturned, and there were knife marks on a futon. A Bowflex machine had been flipped over. Blinds were ripped off the window. Blood was splattered all over the exercise room. Upstairs, a dog was incessantly barking and had been locked in a bedroom. There were a bunch of strange items found, including sewer line cleaner, a bag of baking soda, liquid fire brand drain cleaner, lye, hydrochloric acid, drain opener, hydrogen peroxide, bleach, and a bleach sprayer. The crime scene was full of toxic liquids, and law enforcement called in a hazmat team to help process the evidence, which was found in almost every room of the 2,256 square foot house. One hallway had blood splattered over the walls, and there were severed hands belonging to Joel Sr. laying on the floor in a large pool of blood. In the master bathroom, the dismembered corpses of Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy were soaking in plastic tubs in some kind of acid bath. Both bodies had been cut deeply, so the chemicals would work faster. Joel Sr.'s arms had been cut off from the shoulder blade, and his legs had been removed at the hip. One foot had been removed from the leg. A piece of knife was still embedded in Joel's shoulder area. His bloody clothes were removed, and he sustained 42 stab wounds with extensive damage to the liver, lungs, and kidneys. Joel Sr. fought for his life, and the struggle was fierce. That stock pot, which was boiling on the stovetop, contained Lisa Guy's head and had been removed via blunt force trauma to her neck. Lisa's legs were cut off below the knee, and her arms were removed at the shoulder level. 9 of her ribs had been severed. Lisa's clothes had also been removed. She had been stabbed 31 times. Bloody piles of clothes were found all over the home, including Lisa Guy's shirt, jeans, underwear, and bra that had been cut up with a pair of nearby scissors. Dismemberment is not common and only happens in about 1% of homicide cases. This crime scene had been one of the worst that officers had ever been to. More officers had to be called out to help, and they went door to door to collect any information that neighbors could provide. No one reported issues with the Guy family. They didn't owe money to anyone, and they were a peaceful bunch with no domestic issues. Joel Sr.'s daughter, Michelle, lived in Knoxville, and she received the sad news about her parents. Law enforcement wanted her to provide pictures from Thanksgiving so they could identify everyone who attended. Michelle reached out to her brother and 2 sisters to break the news of their parents' passing. In the bathroom, investigators found 2 key receipts from Walmart with the timestamps of noon and 3:35 p.m., both on November 26. The Walmart receipts were a significant lead, and investigators reviewed the store surveillance footage. 28-year-old Joel Jr. was caught on camera going through the self-checkout at Walmart, where he paid cash for the supplies he bought. Lisa Guy had also been seen on the Walmart video at 12:18 p.m. on November 26, checking out right before she was murdered. In a suitcase in the Guy's home, law enforcement found a receipt from a Louisiana-based Ace Hardware store for a sewer line cleaner. It soon became clear that Joel Guy Jr.'s purchases began before the day of the murders. On November 7th, there was an Ace Hardware store receipt from Louisiana that included muriatic acid and food-grade hydrogen peroxide. On November 18th, a bleach sprayer, timer, and extension cords were purchased from Home Depot. A knife was listed on a receipt from Academy Sports on November 19th. On November 21st, Joel Jr. was seen on surveillance with plastic blue totes he purchased from a Knoxville Walmart. Investigators believe that Joel Guy Jr. attacked Joel Sr. while Lisa was at Walmart. When she returned from the store, Guy Jr. must have attacked her near the front door, and the groceries landed all over the floor. Joel Guy Jr. was injured during the altercation with his father. and he had attempted to treat his injuries in a bathroom. During his second trip to Walmart, he bought first aid items like bandages, ointment, IPA, and hydrogen peroxide to attend to his wounds. His hands were covered in scratches, and he had a profound cut on his left thumb. There were bruises on Guy Jr.'s back and arms, and scratches along his arms and legs. On Sunday, November 27th, Guy Jr. drove back home to Baton Rouge and went to the student clinic to treat his hands. Before he went back to Louisiana, he took money from his parents' bank accounts. He planned to return to his parents' home, to burn the house down, and to frame his father for the crime. The FBI, the Knox County Sheriff's Office, and the East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office worked together in a stakeout where they watched Joel Guy Jr. for a while. On Tuesday, November 29th, Guy Jr. was about to get into his 2006 Hyundai Sonata at the Nicholson Drive apartment complex in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where he lived. Law enforcement intervened and arrested him without incident. They charged him with 2 counts of first-degree murder, felony murder, and abuse of a corpse. They sent Joel Guy Jr. back to Knox County in January 17 to await his murder trial. Joel Guy Jr. was called Joel Michael by his family. Lisa and Joel welcomed their son into the world in 1988. His half-sister said he was a very solitary person and a bit of a hermit. When the women visited Lisa and Joel Sr., Joel Jr. never left his bedroom. There was a family text chain where everyone constantly went back and forth, but Joel Jr. was not part of it. He never really connected with anyone inside of his family, or outside of it either. Joel Jr. graduated from the Louisiana School for Math, Science, and the Arts in 2006 and went on to college. Most young adults get a job after college, but that never happened for Joel Jr. He lived on his parents' dime, and much of what Lisa made at her job went to support Joel Jr.'s life. He completed 1 semester at George Washington University and then started plastic surgery training at Louisiana State University, but withdrew from the institution in 2015. Even though Joel Jr. went away to college and lived in another state, Joel's mother still kept some of his childhood toys, including his Beanie Babies, in his room. There were pictures of young Joel Jr. all on the walls of his bedroom. He had lived in Baton Rouge and lived in an apartment alone. However, he previously had a roommate. He was a registered Democrat in Louisiana since 2008. Not much more is known about Joel Jr.'s background. What was clear after interviewing the family was that Joel Sr. and Lisa Guy were planning on kicking Joel Jr. out of the financial nest. Their 28-year-old son would have to fly on his own. The Guys were planning to retire, and it was no longer workable to subsidize Joel Jr.'s life. Joel Sr.'s daughter, Angela, said her dad was ready to cut Joel Jr. off, and Lisa was on board with the plan. It had been a point of friction within the family for a long time. There were emails dating back to 2013 where Joel Sr. was threatening to cut Jr. off. The Guy sisters felt Thanksgiving was pretty normal, and there were no arguments between anyone on the holiday. In retrospect, one sister felt that Joel Jr. acted out of character on Thanksgiving. She doubted that he even knew her kids' names, yet he wanted to play with them, and was showing them some of his old toys. 2 of the daughters knew that Lisa and their dad were going to cut the purse strings for Joel Jr., and they were going to tell him during the Christmas holiday. Thank you to Podcorn for sponsoring this episode of Beyond Contempt True Crime. Podcorn is a marketplace where podcasters are connected to sponsorship opportunities, such as host-read ads, interview segments, topical discussions, and more. When you work with Podcorn, there is no middleman. It doesn't matter what size your podcast is. You can browse through all the potential sponsors and choose opportunities right on the platform. Podcasters set their own rates and collaborate with brands without any exclusivities. You never give up any rights to your podcast, and Podcorn will support you through the process to ensure that you're protected and compensated for your work you do with brands. Podcorn gives podcasters transparency, creative freedom, and full control of how creators monetize their show. Thanks again to Podcorn for sponsoring this episode. Click the link in my show notes to sign up for an account with Podcorn and start browsing all the potential sponsorship opportunities. Or you can sign up at podcorn.com/podcasters. When police interviewed Joel Jr., he said he talked to his parents about money on Thanksgiving, but he did not admit it was a motive for the murder. But law enforcement didn't need Joel Guy Jr. to provide a motive, since he left a journal in his backpack in the guest room where he'd been staying. He wrote out a list of Lisa and Joel Sr.'s assets, including the Knoxville house, the Rogersville area home, a car, a SUV, a boat, an old truck, and his mom's $500,000 insurance policy. The notebook was a basic roadmap of what he needed to do to kill his parents, with a shopping list and a list of items to bring. He reminded himself to bring his blender and food grinder, along with killing knives and a sledgehammer to crush bones. Kill him with a knife. Kill her with a knife. Bleach to denature proteins. Place her in shower. Turn on hot water and point it at her to get rid of forensics. Remove her clothes and take them with me for disposal. Cut off his arms and plant his flesh under her fingernails. Place her hand with his DNA so that his DNA is not washed away by shower. Get plastic bin for denature process. Grind meat. Flush chunks down toilet, not garbage disposal. Don't have to get rid of the body if no forensic evidence. Body gives time of death, alibi. Place hair curler with flammable paper and flammable containers of gasoline in 4 locations. His killing room, her killing room, his bathroom, her bathroom. Turn the heat as high as it goes to speed decomposition. The family dog was lucky enough to escape the murder plan. In the notebook, Guy Jr. had the phrase, "Kill dog," crossed out and instead wrote, "Take dog with you." He ultimately locked the dog in a bedroom, and it was barking nonstop when police entered the house. The canine was tired and dehydrated, but was ultimately okay. Joel Guy Jr.'s trial began in September 2020. He originally wanted to represent himself, but only wanted to do so for one issue. If he was convicted, Guy Jr. wanted the state of Tennessee to execute him. This was not up to the judge and was squarely on the prosecution, and they weren't seeking the death penalty. So Joel Guy Jr. kept his defense team. However, they weren't able to provide much of a defense because they were painted into a corner with all the evidence against their client. During the trial, the defense team's biggest suggestion was that some of the store security footage should not have been admitted as evidence because of the way law enforcement collected it. Their argument did not persuade the judge. The prosecution warned the courtroom that the graphic nature of the crime might be hard for attendees to hear. If people felt overwhelmed, they were encouraged to exit the room. During the 4-day trial, there were 27 witnesses who testified, and there were over 700 pieces of evidence. One of Guy Jr.'s sisters testified that she actually saw the 45-gallon blue container totes in his car on Thanksgiving, which her parents were found decomposing in. When Guy Jr. was arrested in Louisiana, an officer opened the trunk of his car and found the meat grinder and a gas can. A fingerprint expert from the Knoxville Sheriff's Office had matched Joel Jr.'s prints to something in the FBI database, but they could never determine if he was involved in any other crimes. Investigators found his laptop in the guest bedroom and tried to unlock it, but failed because the BitLocker password couldn't be cracked. There was also a desktop computer where there had been Google searches for certain chemicals. Besides being seen on surveillance footage in Walmart in Knoxville and Ace Hardware in Louisiana, they also caught Guy Jr. on video at Louisiana Lowe's, just further showing that the murders were premeditated. Dr. Hawes worked as a medical assistant and was called to the Guy's house on the night of the murders. The hot temperature in the house increased the rate of decomposition of Lisa and Joel Sr. Not only did she document the bodies photographically, she helped organize the removal of the bodies from the home. The bins full of chemicals could not be moved, so liquids were drained into mini gallon-sized bags. Dr. Hawes also performed the autopsies. Joel Guy Sr.'s head was mostly dissolved and was a skeleton with parts and pieces of tissue that remained in some areas. He took many stab wounds to his back, along with injuries to his organs and ribs. Joel Guy Sr.'s cause of death was homicide due to sharp force trauma. Lisa's head still had hair and skin, and her scalp was mostly intact. Her cause of death was homicide due to multiple sharp force injuries. Joel Guy Jr.'s old roommate from college testified that his family never called or sent letters to him over the decade they had known each other. Michael described his friend as socially awkward and withdrawn. The older Joel Jr. got, the more he withdrew. He had friends during high school and college, but when Michael left Baton Rouge after university, Guy Jr. didn't really hang out with anyone. Michael sort of pulled back from their friendship as well. Guy Jr. never told Michael that he had sisters, and he lied about his mother's profession, stating that she was an optometrist. Michael never really knew his friend as well as he thought he did. In the closing arguments, the defense said that Joel Jr. was outgoing, friendly, and happy over the Thanksgiving holiday, and people who have this attitude aren't plotting murders. The prosecution said that this happy act was all part of Guy Jr.'s plan, since this was atypical behavior for him. He was trying to take the attention off of himself so he wouldn't be blamed for the murders. They convicted Joel Guy Jr. of 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of first-degree felony murder, and 2 counts of abuse of a corpse. In a handwritten letter while in prison, Guy Jr. wanted to gouge another inmate's eyes out with his hands, which wasn't helpful for a sentencing hearing on October 2nd, 2020. Several victims read their impact statements. Joel Sr.'s daughter Angela said, "For 4 years, I felt like I pushed it down, like it is not really happening. But it's real, and they are gone. And Dad was my best friend, and I will never get to hear his laugh again or his incredible hugs. I still have Dad on speed dial, and it hurts for me to never get to speak to him again." Her dad was her fishing buddy, he was a great storyteller, and he would no longer be able to walk her down the aisle on her wedding day. Lisa Guy's brother read his statement. "My sister Lisa Guy was truly one of the most loving, caring, and forgiving people on the face of the earth. Her husband, my brother-in-law, Joel Guy Sr., was honestly one of the most down-to-earth, hardworking, and kind people I ever met. They were the type of people who would help anyone anytime they could." Lisa's mother collapsed when she was told that her grandson murdered her daughter. She passed away during hospitalization. Joel Guy Sr.'s daughter, Tina, said that Lisa and her dad were amazing people who loved their family. Joel Sr.'s daughter, Michelle, said, "I'm angry at my dreams being destroyed, but I'm not the only one that has been affected. This has impacted my kids, and for that, I will never be able to forgive. I can rest easy knowing that God is okay with my choice to forgive someone that has murdered my parents. I've had to spend the last 4 years trying to save my children's souls, their spirits and their hearts. I've spent the last 4 years cleaning up a mess. No one will ever know what it's like to be a child, having to hear your grandmother's head was cooking in a pot. On a super selfish note, you will never know what it's like to have to tell your children that their grandparents were chopped up and put in acid." Guy Jr. was with no emotional displays during the statements. They sentenced Joel Guy Jr. to life in prison, and he wasn't eligible for parole for 130 years. The judge retorted that 300 years wouldn't be enough time for the crimes he committed. The judge stated that Guy Jr. thought he was smarter than he actually was, as evidenced by the unintelligent way the crimes were committed. He was depraved, showed no remorse, and even seemed proud of his actions. The judge believed he was beyond redemption. Joel and Lisa Guy had a joint obituary posted online. Joel M. Guy, age 61, and Lisa M. Guy, age 55, passed away suddenly in Knoxville on November 26, 2016. Joel, an engineering designer, and Lisa, a full-time mom, then an accounts payable administrator, were married for 31 years and were true soulmates. They both had a great sense of humor, were loving and kind-hearted, and the most compassionate people. They were the loves of each other's lives. They enjoyed anything that involved being together, which included being in nature and on the water. They loved their kids and adored their grandchildren. When the living family members were listed in the last paragraph of the obituary, Joel Guy Jr.'s name was notably missing. Joel Guy Jr. is currently incarcerated at the Northwest Correctional Complex in Tiptonville, Tennessee. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of Beyond Contempt. Please visit BeyondContemptPodcast.com for the links to the sources and music used in this episode. Research, writing, editing, audio production, and sound design were performed by me, Renee. If you like the show, please leave me a positive review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thank you so much, everyone.